CBDIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon and welcome to another InvestorIdeas.com podcast looking at cannabis news, stocks to watch, as well as insights from thought leaders and experts. In today's podcast, I interview Michael Temperio, who is the president of cannabis business from Neptune Wellness Solutions Incorporated, trading on the TSX as NEPT and the NASDAQ as NEPT, where we discuss some of the company's more recent news developments, as well as the CBD industry in the U.S. and abroad. So today I'm here talking with Michael Temperio, who is the president of cannabis business at Neptune Wellness Solutions. Michael, it's great to be able to talk to you. So for any of our listeners who are unfamiliar with you and Neptune Wellness, could you maybe just give a brief background of the company and then your role within it?
Well, I've been with the company since early 2000, so really at inception when it was created, and taking the role of mainly business development capacity. But when I first joined the company, I was on a board of directors. I was actually the first Neptune chairman of its board of directors, and joined the executive team as a permanent member in a BD capacity in late 2010, September 2010. Overall, just overseeing the development of the company. At the time, we were in a krill business, which is essentially was an omega-3 product. And, in 2015, 16, I was asked by the board to start looking at diversification. The omega-3 business was not delivering to its original promise. So came up with the idea that we should, considering Canada was moving with with Prime Minister Trudeau into legalizing cannabis, I came up with the idea, and hence I've taken the responsibility of president of that business. Most recently was also asked to take the role of chief business development officer for, with the acquisition of our U.S. assets. So I'm now involved in both sides of the border.
So that leads me right into my first question, which is, as you are based in both sides of the border right now, could you maybe discuss some of the biggest differences that you're seeing between both the U.S. and Canadian markets?
Well, Canada is highly regulated. It's adult use. It's federally legalized. So there's more clarity than the U.S. at this point. As you know, in the U.S., it's state by state. Now, the framework in Canada is also very restrictive in the sense that you need a license for both, whether you produce cannabis or derived CBD, you need to be a licensed producer. So in Canada, we have ventured into a B2B capacity where we cater to the needs of LP, licensed producer, cultivators, helping them building a product. So we do some co-packing. We're going to be doing some co-packing activities, delivery forms on a white label basis, with the various type of delivery forms. In the U.S., it's, our positioning in the U.S. obviously is strictly on CBD. As you know, we would not, being a public company, venture into anything else that would not be federally accepted. So it's, we felt that CBD in the U.S. is going to be a major play. And we think that the U.S., once things clears out, will be probably a game changer because, it's a bit difficult right now in the U.S. because it's not yet, Farm Bill was approved, but, it's still an FDA type of program that is going to need to be reflecting upon us to, will CBD be accepted as a deregulated substance? There's already a drug with a CBD into it called the PDLX. So the FDA has to reflect as to what they will admit in terms of, it's not necessarily claim, but dosage that they will admit. So there's a bit of a situation that still needs to be clarified. But as you know, in the U.S., every company right now is looking at CBD for the reason of its merit, in terms of being an anti-inflammatory and other type of benefits that have been also talked about and envisioned. And, in the U.S., our approach will be more to focus not only on white label, but looking at maybe some potential development of our own brand. As you've seen, we hired a new CEO, a serial entrepreneur in Michael Camerata, and we've already made some announcement recently with American media, as well as IFF, International Flavors and Fragrance, where we have looked at doing some product development together, branded products. So our focus in the U.S. will be slightly different, but will center around not only making products for others, but also developing value through our own products.
And are there specific states that you're focused on right now in the U.S., or where are you finding the sort of easiest points of entry are for the U.S. market?
Well, right now, CBD is pretty wide open in the U.S. You can't make claims, but obviously our experience with nutraceutical business and having a company that we bought in 2015 called Biodroga, which is an asset of, making turnkey innovation and product development for third party, is providing us, I think, with some great possibilities. And I don't think we're focusing on any given state right now, but looking at our customer base that we've developed over the years that show interest as CPG, companies, and we see them coming in a hurry into the field. The fact that we are in the U.S., anytime soon will be a CPG. Not a CPG, but a CGMP factory. In Canada, we're looking to even build on our CGMP factory to have even more credential that will allow us to export. But at this point, we feel that the market is pretty much all over in the U.S., not really restricted to one state when we talk about CBD.
You mentioned as well the sort of differences between the Canadian and U.S. market there, and in the Canada market, you're focusing more on the white label aspects of the industry. With regards to that, what are you seeing as far as current demand in the sort of white label industry from the Canadian market?
Well, all the LPs, a lot of them are cultivating, and we can see it. Canada has not really developed itself. We're just really at the tip of the iceberg. It's still very slow. The retail market has not really been, deployed as quickly as it should have. And it's also quite different from one province to the other. Some provinces have decided to have, own retail stores like Quebec, for instance, versus others. So there is some challenge there. But where the challenge lies for LPs is, they have their hands full in trying to cultivate. And when it comes to extraction and having to co-pack, obviously they need a good, trusted service provider, which we are. So we see that as very promising for Neptune in that white label market in terms of, providing added value services, whether it be, using our proprietary ingredients to help them have some differentiation, inclusive of everything we can do for them from extraction, purifying, formulating, and putting it into delivery form.
I know you touched on this a little bit there of the different sort of certifications that your facility in Canada has, and I know you're working to gain EU GMP certification. Once that is achieved, what's the expectation moving forward? Will that sort of aid you with international expansion? Would you be looking into the EU market, or would that just strictly be for the Canadian and US markets?
Well, I think we have to really focus a lot on the US and Canadian market. They're huge market. This obviously is not discounting the idea that we should, in Canada, get our EU GMP certification, because we still have a lot of contact, and our past business was global in the omega-3, and we have these customers now looking for CBD in Europe. So the access to customers is there, but frankly, in terms of market development, we see the US and CBD moving at a pace that the European market would probably be a bit slower. The rules and the regulatory framework are different. Although we talk about the EU as a whole, there's still some challenge there depending on what country you're trying to cater to. So yes, we are preparing for it, but we'll focus in the next 12 months or 18 months be in Europe. I think it'll be highly towards the US and Canada.
As your company is very much focused on the wellness sector of that sort of CBD industry, what are you seeing as far as the types of products or the formulations that are sort of resonating with consumers the most, and where's sort of the future of the industry moving when it comes to the wellness side for the CBD market? How do you see that rolling out?
Well, I think it's going to roll out in many several type of products. If you talk about wellness, you're covering, natural products, for instance. You may see delivery forms into capsules and topicals and other type, not so much the vaping for CBD. So they'll be rolled out into cosmetics. So in this case, the formulation and our deal with or letter of intent with the IFF brings that kind of leverage where we're sitting with one of the largest, if not the largest, fragrance and aroma type of manufacturer of essential oils. So what we're doing basically is looking at all these segments, whether it be personal care, cosmetic, food, or NHP, and looking at how we can partner, who we could partner with that will lever even us further, and provided the fact that we already have some wellness DNA in us and already have a lot of experience in innovating and developing products. I think these partners then become, certainly additional tool for us to make a difference and become a compelling player in the U.S. as such.
Absolutely. So what are some of the biggest factors you look for when you're assessing a partner then to be working with? What makes them more enticing or less enticing in this market right now?
Well, I think the scope that they have, the footprint that they have in terms of, possibly even distribution, if we talk about a brand, the science that they can bring, or added science that they can bring to us in terms of also R&D perspective, where we can jointly work in research and development to make a difference together rather than working on our own, separately. So all these additional type of value that we can find in a partner becomes extremely interesting for us to accelerate the whole thing. And it's a fast-moving industry, and if we can accelerate ourselves by partnering with the right players, that's key in getting to the consumer, not only with the best product, because we can do that. I think we have a lot of capacity in generating trust with either the CPG business, but even for our brand, I think, being trusted and having the right partner also that are trusted with great numbers of years and being in the field also brings and resonate well with consumer when you are able to advocate it.
So your company recently presented at the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference in Chicago. Could you maybe discuss just some of the success or how the presentation there went, as well as just the general sort of sense of the market right now, as it's been a bit of a difficult summer for the cannabis industry? Are you finding that that's sort of turning around right now for investors as well as businesses?
I think for investors, the good thing for them when they review Neptune is or move in the U.S. That footprints bring a big difference because, we're talking wellness. Cannabis is going to be only, part of our business. It's not going to be necessarily the main focus of our business. When you talk about CBD derived from hemp, yes, it's really a strain that is in the cannabis family or the phytocannabinoid family, but it's completely different than, finding a molecule of THC, which is more psychoactive. So there's a lot of ground that, the sandbox is much bigger. When you talk about CBD in the area of cosmetic, like I alluded to before, personal care or natural products. I think we are isolated a bit from the, let's call it the perception of cannabis as it is today, being deployed taking a bit longer in Canada, for instance. And, I think we've been isolated against that. And, frankly, I think the investors sees us that way, and we may not have been hit as much as the others. And I think, as we move along in the U.S. with some branding capacity with the players I mentioned before, I believe that will be even more concrete for them, and they'll see more value in us than just the cannabis type of player.
That's a good position to be in with the obvious fluctuation that the cannabis industry does create, is to more lean yourself towards the wellness market, which stays a little bit more stable.
Absolutely, and by the way, that's always been our DNA. And when we actually made a move to get a license in Canada, that was also, our thinking and our philosophy is that we can work with the LPs. We'll help them do whatever they want to do, even in the adult use. But our focus, and that was even more single when we bought a company in the U.S. Sugar Leaf. Our focus would be definitely heavily, influence and develop around wellness.
Well, thank you so much. And I guess there's some final thoughts. Other than your financial results, which are going to be coming out soon, what else can investors look for from Neptune Wellness in the coming months?
I think they are going to have to be patient, just like, you have to be patient when you look at any company that really technically are a startup. There is conditions there that, needs to be met for us, even whether it be in manufacturing, whether it be getting into the branding activities. But I believe that if people are looking for a company to progress and are not so much short term, but look at it more with the arrival of a very, very young and dynamic CEO, which has proven himself in a branding capacity and, has done it with Schmidt Natural, I think we're certainly a good bet to take personally.
Well, thank you so much for talking today, Michael. It's been great hearing your insight.
Thank you very much, Dana.
Once again, that was Michael Temperio, the president of cannabis business from Neptune Wellness Solutions Incorporated, trading on the TSX and the NASDAQ as NEPT. To find out more information about Neptune Wellness Solutions, you can click the link attached in the article. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your week. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.